we will start today from copy constructor. What does it mean? You know that constructor is a function, is a member function that when an object is created, then the constructor is called automatically, and mostly we are using for initialization purpose. So copy constructor means that when we are creating a new object and at the same time copying one object to another object. So there are two processes at the same time. One object is created and a second thing, then at the same time when the newly object is created, we are initializing from another object also. So this time the copy concept also comes in. So a specialized constructor used when a newly created object is initialized to the data of another object of same class. So same classes, okay, when we are creating a new object and at the same time initializing with the values of another object, at that time the copy constructor is called automatically. And there, if we don't define, then there will be a default copy constructor. Not the point. The word default copy constructor, default means that if the user, the programmer, don't do manually explicitly, then the compiler will do for the programmer. So in many cases, copy constructor works. But okay, another point, copy constructor works actually in the style of like member by member copy. Member by member copy means what? It's work like this. That let's suppose this is one object, okay? This is one object. I think I should create, yeah, okay. And it has, let's suppose, one, two, and three objects, three members, three data members, okay? And let's suppose there is another object of the same class, okay? It will also have three members because they are of same class. So let's suppose this object don't have any values. These data don't have any values, or maybe let's suppose have, but at the beginning time when it is created, this is a newly created object. So when we use the equal statement at the same time, for example, if we have a class test, let's suppose, okay, so test obj1, we have already created this one, and let's suppose its value is 10. Okay, now we are creating another object, test obj2, object 2. But you see, we are creating a new object obj2, but at the same time we are initializing with the value of object 1. Okay, at this moment there are two processes. One is the newly creation of object, and another the assignment, the initialization of the values from another object. So it will be like this. So the copy constructor will be called automatically, and it will do what? It will copy member by member data from the left hand side to the right hand side of the object. So this member data will be copied to this member data. This member data will be copied to this member, and this member data will be copied to this member. So the copy constructor know how to copy because both objects are of the same class, so there is no complications, so it is easy to copy. Okay, so this type of constructor is called copy constructor. So in normal situation it works nice, no even no need for us to define a copy constructor. So the default copy constructor is enough, and it can best perform. But if there is a problem, if the class contains some pointer like this one, you see, if the class contains some pointer, then at that time the copy constructor has a problem. The copy constructor cannot do the job exactly like without pointer. So what's the issue? The issue is like that in case of pointer, when there is a pointer in a class, then actually when you initialize one object with the value of another object, then what happens? To the pointer value, both objects are pointing to the same memory locations. Okay, so meaning to say the pointer is 1 and the objects are 2, both of them are pointing to the same location. Now the problem is that if let's suppose any one of these is deleted, let's suppose if this one is deleted, then its destructor will be called automatically. And when its destructor is called, it will delete the value which is stored in the pointer. So as a result, the other object will be pointing now to such a place where there is no value, because this value is already deleted by the other object. So this is an issue in the case when a class has a pointer. So how to deal with this? So whenever there is a pointer data member in a class, then don't leave the copy process to default copy constructor. You should must define your own copy constructor. So how to define and how to solve this problem? It will be like this. But let's look at this one first. You see, in this situation, either objects can manipulate. I already, I think, explained. I already explained this one. So let's come to this one. So how to define our, our own copy constructor. So let's suppose some class, this will be the class, okay? And you see its name is the same because it is a constructor, but you know, this is a compulsory component that you will must provide one argument of the same, one argument, but reference to the object of the same class. I'm repeating again. This type of constructor, when you want to handle the pointers, then you will must define a constructor, copy constructor, which have an argument to the reference of the same class, to an object of the same class, but it must be a reference object. Okay, it cannot be normal object, it must be a reference. So at that time, you see the values will be copied again, member by member, but at that time there will be two different memory locations that the two objects will be pointing to. So there will be no overlapping anymore. So if any one of them is deleted by the destructor, the other one will not lose any values. So this is the way how to deal with default copy constructor. Okay, now the question is that why we need, why, okay, so the situation will become like this, that each object will point to a different location. The question is that why we need in a copy constructor a reference object. Why not normal object? This is like this. That let me show you this one. That let's suppose we have a constructor, okay, uh, with the name test. Okay, so we are sending when there is initialization and when there is a copy from one object to another, then this copy constructor will be called automatically. But you see, if we change, let's suppose if we change the reference to normal variable, not a reference, what will happen if we do like this, that we are creating another object and initializing with the object one, what will happen, that now the copy constructor will be called like this, okay? When copy constructor will be called, and when copy constructor is called, note the point, okay? That during this calling process, the this value, the object one value will be copied. This value will be copied to this object. So you see, again there is a copy process again. So this value will be copied, and during the copy there is assignment process again. So when there is again a copy process, the same object will the same constructor will be called once again. Okay, so second time. So when the second time the constructor is called, there will be again a copy process. So the same constructor will be called once again. So it will become a recursive call to the same constructor, and it will be like this. I have created some animations for you. It will be like this. When there is a copy, this object will be copied to this one. So when a copy process comes in again, the copy constructor will be called again. So you see, note the point. This copy is still pending yet. Okay, this is not completed yet. This copy will be completed first. So after this, when this copy start, this constructor will be called second time. So a third level copy will be started. And when the constructor is called, again another level of copy will be started. So this is called recursive calling. So it will become like this: recursive call, recursive call, recursive call, until even the compiler cannot handle this. That much will be recursive call and creation of new object that finally the system will handle. Okay, and now this process cannot be handled, and this is why you will get an error message. Let me show you practically how to do it. I have already created one simple function, sorry, simple program for this to save time. You see, the class test private, it has only one data, int x. This is a default constructor. This is overloaded constructor just to initialize the x with data. This one is the copy constructor. Okay, why it is copy constructor? Because it is a constructor like this, like this, like this. But this one has an argument of a reference argument. Okay, you see this one has normal default argument. This one don't have any argument. Okay, this one has a reference argument. So this is why it is called copy constructor. So when there is a copy process, compiler will automatically know which constructor to call. Okay, so this one is just a show data function. We just displaying the value of x. Now in int main, we created one object and initialize with one value. So this is just an integer value, and we are initializing with this. So what this constructor will be called, the overloading. So it's integer value, and this constructor will call, and the 10 will be assigned to the value 10. Okay. Now, after that, we are creating another object, obj2, and at the same time, you see the creation and the initializations are both at the same time. So at this time, what will happen? The copy constructor will be called, and this object will be copied to this obj. Okay, now you see, when you are using a reference argument, note the point, that time will be no copy. Then this variable and this variable both reflect to the same memory location. But if we remove this one, then this one is a different memory location and this one is a different memory location. Then there will be a copy process. This value will be copied to this. So when there is a copy process, another copy constructor will be called. So in that copy constructor again will be a copy process, and it will become a recursive call to the copy constructor. Okay, I hope it is so simple and you already know the coding. Let me run for you. You will see the output of this. You see the copy done, meaning to say the copy constructor was called, the others were not called. You see, this is why I put just a message to show you. Then the copy constructor called, and then you see the same value, object 1 has a value 10, then object 2 is initialized with the same value, and then when I show the object 2 data, not the object 1. So you see the object 2 data I show, and it also has the same value 10. You see, same value 10. So it means it is working. But you see, if I change this one from reference to a normal object, you see, I got an error message. Okay, even if you see that this is on the const, if I remove this, I will get here an error message. So even it cannot compile, because the compiler already know that what will happen if this program run. If this program run, the recursive call will occur during runtime, which it cannot be handled. And I think that's a good intelligence now in the editors, that the editor already detect that there will be a problem. Otherwise, if the editor didn't detect and we run the program, then we will stuck during runtime. So I hope we continue another topic. Next one. Okay, this is the example. You can go through by yourself. Oh, I think I should. Okay, next topic is operator overloading. What is operator? I hope all of you know the plus, equal, plus, minus, division, subtraction. All these are called operators. Okay. So these operators, some are binary operator. Okay, the less than, the greater than. Okay, the greater than, the equal to, the not equal to. All these are called operators. Operators apply some operation on values. The values may be variables. The values may be constants, like let's suppose a plus 2. Okay, and if a is a variable and this is the result is assigned to 2, so you see this plus is an operator, the assignment is an operator. So in a built-in data types, I mean the int, float, double, it's okay, it is already defined in the compiler what plus means, what minus means, what less than means, what greater than means. It's not an issue. But These data types don't know about the user defined data types, don't know about the classes. For example, let's suppose simply if you have a class student, okay, a student, and you created object of the student, and then you apply the operator plus. So student plus student, let's suppose another student. Student plus student means what? It is it is a nonsense, right? Okay. But so how to deal with this type of operation then? Again, for example, if you have a class for distance, okay, distance we mostly measure in inches and feet, okay, in inches and feet. So it's a class, it has two data members, inches and feet. So if you apply plus or minus or multiplication operation on distance object, okay, let's suppose this is a distance class, and d1 is the object of that, and d2 is another object of the same class. So at that time, the compiler cannot use this plus operator to plus for you the distance, because this plus can only plus float numbers or integer number. It cannot plus the new data type. The plus don't know anything about the distance. The plus don't know about the student. The plus don't know about item, about books, anything. So at that time, we need to redefine, not the point, to redefine the plus, that how to plus two distances together, how to plus two items together, how to plus two objects together. At that times, we will redefine. And you see, this redefinition is another power, another uniqueness of object-oriented programming. That object-oriented programming give you the power that you can redefine the whole set of operations. Even you can define the plus for another meaning also if you want. Okay, you can define the multiplication, let's suppose for minus if you want, meaning to say even you can change the meaning of these operators if you want, but it will be a weird way of definition because it's not according to the standard definitions. Okay, so meaning to say we can redefine all the operators to be able to work, to be able to be applied on the new classes, new objects. This process is called operator overloading. Overloading. Okay. And we can overload most of the C++ operators. There are some operators that we cannot overload. And the word which is used to overload, we will define a member function, and the member function name will be operator. You will must use the word operator, and after that which operator you want to overload, you will type that operator, and after that you will provide the arguments. Okay, so the argument can be anything, it's not compulsory that it must be a reference. Okay, so to overload an operator, we will define a member function or friend function, also possible later on we will study a member function inside the class, and we will use the operator function, and then we'll redefine the operator that we want to overload. Okay, so this will be the syntax, how to write, how to define the function. Okay, in this case when there is a assignment, for example like this, you see, uh, then normally it will be called like this because it is a member function, and it will be called by the object on the left of the function. Like for example, you see mostly the standard procedure is like this: obj dot show. Okay, obj dot show, it means that the object before dot is calling the function show. In the same way, the object before dot will call the operator function, and the second object will be argument to this. But you see, this will be the standard way. But on the other side, it is a conventional operator, assignment operator, and assignment operator looks nice if we use like this. So then the compiler can understand you can use like this also, and you can use like this also. But whenever we write like this, note the point again, the operation behind the scene will be again like this, that the first object, this one, is calling the assignment the assignment overloaded function, and the second one on the right hand side will be sent as a argument to this function. Okay, so it works like this. So in this way we can define, for example, you see like this, uh, that a function, okay, let's suppose we want to define negative, the minus operator. Okay, so how to do it? It will be inside a class function. It will be a public function, and you see it returns a double value, because you see, if you can see like this, c equal to a minus b, sorry, b minus t, let's suppose. Okay, like this. So whatever this minus do, it returns a value. So this is why the return type you can define. Wait, I will okay, so after that, uh, the argument, and this time the argument is sent as a reference. It is a best process, a best practice to send as a reference, because the operation will be faster and there will be no copying process to slow down the compiler. Okay, and this is just a simple process to return the square root of the values that you send. Okay, so the first one, second one, so you see it's like a distance, and in a distance, the difference between two distances is this formula. Don't worry about the formula, just focus on this thing, that the operator, the word operator, the operator symbol, and its argument. Here you can simply say like x minus y. Okay, and this assigned to some other variable, and then say return c. Okay, so simply like that. And you can, and later on, once you define this class inside the class, once you define this function, then you can do like this. See how uh, 0.2 minus 0.1, it means the 0.2 is calling the function, the second one is going as an argument. This is why you see it is to the right of the operator. This is why the word right has been used here to be more clear. It means that which the right is pointing to this one. Okay, so I hope it is clear. Let me see the question. Okay, so to understand how to define plus and minus operators, how to overload plus and minus operators, let's consider this function. Okay, the function name is feet inches. You can remove this stuff also. To understand, this class has int feet, int inches. This simplify function is simplifying and converting the inches to feet and feet to inches. As I told you, that 1 feet is equal to 12 inches. Okay, 12 inches. So if someone enter 13 or 14 inches, then the system should automatically convert this 13 inches to 1 feet and 1 inches, and vice versa. If someone enter less than 0 inches, okay, in negative, then the system should have a mechanism to adjust the inches and feet. For that purpose, we have this simplify function, and the coding of simplify function is this one. You see, it's the same thing. If the inches are more than 12, what you do, you increase the feet by what? Divide the inches by 12. So whatever you get, okay, whatever is the quotient, plus that one to feet, and the inches will become to the remainder. Okay, I hope you understand this. Else, if inches are less than this, meaning to say it is a negative value, then again adjust in a reverse way. So this is a simplified function, don't worry about this. Okay, and after that we have constructor. You see this constructor, normal constructor. This one is a mutator function. Set feet, set inches, a very simple one. Okay, get feet and get inches, very simple one. These are the different functions which can be used to overload the different operator. For example, if I want if I want to overload the plus operator, okay, then it will return the same object. This is why the class name. And the word operator is compulsory. Okay, which operator you want to overload? Plus. And this will be the argument. So I have not defined this function here. Okay, so I think let me delete everything the rest to be simplified for you. Okay, let's just go through this plus operator. Okay, and this plus operator I will delete the rest, and only I will leave. What happened? Okay, don't worry. Let me just go to this. You see, this function is declared inside the class, so I want to define this function outside the class. Okay, so when I define outside the class, let's do how to do it. Okay, the same thing. This is the return type, this is the class, the function name, but not the point. When you are defining outside the class, then you will have to use the class name once again and the scope resolution operator to show that this function is belonging to this class. And don't confuse with the two-time usage of the class name, because its return type is the is the same object. Okay, so here we will do what? We will do, like, it should be like this. You see that feet plus obj.feet plus these two and then assign to this, and then inches plus obj.inches plus these two and then assign to this, and then simplify and then return the value. So save the changes. Okay, and now run. So this time you see it become the correct one. Hello guys, can you help me how to calculate normally? If there are 10 let me do that one. So 10 inches, 10 feet or 15 inches, it means 1 feet will go there, it will become 11 feet and 3 inches, right? And after that again 6 feet and 5 inches. So if we plus this, 3 plus 5, 8, okay, and 1 plus 6, 7, and 1. So 17, 17 and 8. You see our result is correct now. Okay, I hope you understand. I hope. Uh, we already saw practically how to overload plus and minus. We can overload plus plus and minus minus. Okay, and we can overload the insertion operator and extraction operator, which is objects are of I stream and O stream. Okay, so how to do that? Okay, it is like this. If you want to overload plus plus or minus minus, so it will be like this. You see, you plus plus the inches, okay, and the inches will be, there is a possibility that the inches become more than 12. If become more than 12, then make it simplified. Okay, the simplify function will be called. So you see there is no dot who is calling. So actually this pointer is calling. So meaning the object who is who's say like this, like let's suppose obj are first. Okay, obj plus plus. So the same object is calling. So its own inches will be plus plus. So, and then simplify and then return. So return. So whatever value is returned, it will assign to it again. Okay, so then you can use like this also. Once you have the return in the function, then you can use it like this also. Distance 2 equal to the returning value will be assigned to this, and then plus plus distance 1. Okay, it will be like this actually, that the distance 1 will call the plus plus operator, but normally we will use like this. So but at the behind the scene will be actually like this. Okay, so there is another one. One is pre increment, like plus plus x. Okay, and another one is post increment, like x plus plus. So how the compiler will understand and how the compiler will differentiate? Because you see here, feet inches is the same like this. Okay, feet inches is the same like this. Okay, the scope resolution operator, scope resolution operator. You see operator plus plus, operator plus plus. So how the compiler will know that this is the pre or the post? So to tell the compiler that this is the post version, we are sending a dummy object int. You see, it is called dummy object. It's actually not a variable. Okay, if it was a variable, then we will use like this int some variable like x. Okay, then it should be like that. But no, we are not using like that. Just to tell the compiler that this time the plus plus is a post increment. Okay, then the process is the same. Feet inches temp. Okay, you see we created a temp object, and then we increment its inches value, and then simplify, and then return the temp. Okay, so the difference between these two, as I told you, is the dummy object. Okay, the dummy object and the way how it is called. So in this way, it initializes with the feet and inches values of the object. Okay, the temp variable in previous in the pre version like plus plus x, there was no temp variable, but in the uh, post one like x plus plus, we are creating an extra temp object. Okay, and this will copy to whatever is incremented, it will again copy to the same variable, and then it will be returned. So in that case, when there is a returning process, in that case we can use in an assignment operator. Okay, so in the same way, you can overload greater than operator. Okay, the same procedure, but you know the return, the result of greater than and less than is always a boolean. For example, x is greater than y. Is it true or y? So its result will be either true or either false. This is why the function the return type is bool. So bool status one variable. So if the inches are greater than the other object inches, sorry feet, then the status will be true. Okay, if they are same, the feet are same, but the inches are greater, again the object is greater, then the status is true. If both these if else are wrong, then it means that it is not greater, it is less, then the status is false. Okay, and then return the status. So whatever is the status, so if it is false means the object is not greater, and if it is true, it means the object is greater, and the same this operator role is the same. So we can overload for object also in the same way. The less than operator is exactly the same, just change the value of the less than. Okay, equal operator, you see its return type is also a Boolean operator. Some things will be equal or not equal. So x is equal to y, yes or not. So this is why a Boolean return type. Okay, so previously we were looking for a greater than or less than. Then this time we are looking for equality. If these are equal, so then the object is equal. If otherwise they are not equal, and return the status. Okay, so in this way, these are the object that extraction and insertion operator. Note the point: these instruction and insertion operators are by itself object. These are not operators. Okay, these are object of the iStream and OStream classes. So when you are overloading this operator, then this is extra thing that you will must provide of OStream. Okay, this any reference, and this will be the reference of the same class that we are going to. So then str this, just you see, we can use this operator now to simply display the distance object like this. Otherwise, if you remember, for displaying we were using like obj1 or 2 dot show or show data. Until now we were using this type of display function to display the values of some object. So once you overload this operator, okay, then you can do simply like this. No need to call any function anymore like this. Okay, the same applies on the extraction operator. Okay, like this one. So when once you define this one, it has the same procedure like iStream. Okay, because it's for input variable. So iStream object reference, sorry, and its own reference, and then you see message and enter the value, message, enter the value, simplify and return this value. So in this way, once we overloaded this one, then we can directly use like this. Okay, so we no need to use a setter and getter function anymore. Okay, so it means actually these two operators are replacing the setter and getter functions. If you don't overload this, then you will have to have a member functions to initialize the data with some values. Okay, so this is the same procedure. In the same way, you can define this uh, index of. Okay, this is like array index, so you can overload this operator also. So in normal array it works, but what about objects? For objects, to use this operator with array of objects, then you need to overload, and it will overload in the same way as the others. Okay, the coding is given in the book also. You can go to that one. I think the time is short. Some student will be in hurry. This is why I don't have time to do that, but the procedure is the same. So in this way, we can plus objects to each other. We can convert object. So conversion of object means that on one side we have normal data type, like let's suppose int. On the other side we have objects. So how to convert the object to integer, or how to convert the integer to object? This conversion, we can use the same overloading concept, and we can do this conversion also. Okay, so at that time, when there is assignment operator, and on one side is built-in data type and the other side is object, then the compiler know, okay, now I should call the overloading function. Okay, last one is aggregation. Aggregation means that when one whole class become part of another class. For example, we have this class, let's suppose complete class. Inside this class is another class. This concept is called aggregation, and this is called a Hayes relationship. For example, we have a class house. Okay, house. So the house has many rooms. So the class for room will be inside, aggregated inside the house class. This is a simple concept, and when there is a situation like this is called a Hayes relationship. So this is the last topic of today. It will be like this. You see, class student info. Okay, and later on here you see the whole student info. This student, inside the student info is a variable. So meaning to say this whole class now is here in the student class. Okay, so in this way one class can become part of another class. If you see here also, in the course class, the instructor class is there and the book class is there. So the instructor is a big class which contain subclasses. This concept is called aggregation. This is not inheritance. Remember the point. It is not inheritance. We will study inheritance later. It's like one complete class is declared inside another class.